Welcome to the Baboom Baboom podcast, your go-to source for expert tips on car stereo installation, vehicle wiring, and all things wiring related. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started, we've got the advice to help you power up your ride. Get ready to crank up the volume on your knowledge and make your next wiring project a success.
Hey everyone, have you ever plugged in like a whole string of holiday lights, to really go all out, and then you get to the end and they're just kind of pathetically dim?
Or maybe you're out in the garage using your trusty power drill, and it sounds more like, I don't know, a tired kitten than a powerful tool.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's like, where'd all the power go? I'm plugging it in, right?
Let me guess. There's maybe an extension cord involved somewhere in that scenario. Am I right?
Bingo.
Yeah.
You know it. We've all been there. We're tackling voltage drop today and using this really informative blog from Baboom Baboom.
Yep.
They're great, by the way, for anything electrical. We're going to break it all down. What voltage drop is, why you should even care about it, and most importantly, I think, how to keep it from like messing with your stuff. And
you might hear voltage drop and think, oh, that's for the electricians to deal with. But honestly, a little knowledge in this area, it can really make a big difference. Whether you're a DIYer, an audiophile who really cares about their sound system, or you just want those holiday lights to, actually shine bright.
Okay, so let's get into it. What is voltage drop exactly? I'm picturing like, I don't know, some dramatic power outage situation.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling it's a bit more nuanced than that.
Oh, way more nuanced, but I like the dramatic image. So the Baboom Baboom blog, they define voltage drop as this decrease in electrical potential between your power source, so the outlet, and whatever you're trying to power. Basically, it's the reason why the power seems to kind of, dwindle the further it has to travel.
So it's not that the electricity just vanishes, it's that it loses some of its, its power along the way.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Think about a river, right, flowing through a pipe. The water, that's your electrical current, and that pipe, that represents the wire. And so the longer and the narrower the pipe is, the more resistance that water is going to encounter, and the weaker the flow will be, by the time it gets to the end.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So I'm guessing the same principle applies to electrical wires then.
You got it. Longer wires, thinner wires, and keep in mind, thinner means a higher gauge number when we're talking about wires. They create more resistance for that electrical current to flow through. And that resistance, my friend, is what causes that voltage to drop.
So instead of this rushing river of electricity, you end up with like a little trickle. Not exactly what you want for your expensive gadgets and appliances, I'm guessing.
Definitely not ideal. And this is where things get really interesting, because that reduced voltage at the end of the line, it can actually have some pretty big consequences for your devices themselves, your energy bills, even the safety of your home.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying that a little voltage drop can actually be dangerous? I need to hear more about this.
Oh, yeah. We're talking potential fire hazards here, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before we jump into the really scary stuff, let's talk about why else you should even care about voltage drop.
Okay, fire hazards, you've definitely got my attention now, but let's back up a bit before we get to, calling the fire department. What other kinds of problems can voltage drop cause?
Right. Good point. It's not always, catastrophic.
Right.
The Baboom Baboom blog, they actually give some really good, real-world examples. Remember you were saying that your drill was, really struggling to work?
Yeah.
So imagine that same scenario, but instead of a drill, it's your refrigerator trying to kick on.
Oh, wow.
And that sluggishness could be from voltage drop, and it can actually put a lot of strain on your appliances in the long run.
I never even thought about it like that. I mean, my fridge is already working overtime in the summer. It doesn't need anything else slowing it down, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What about, other devices? Is it just appliances, or is it, everything?
It can really affect anything that relies on electricity, to some degree. So we're talking flickering lights, electronics acting up, even your sound system. If you're an audiophile and you really care about your sound, voltage drop can actually mess with that too. It's all about those devices getting the consistent voltage they need. And when it drops, that's when you start to see the problems.
Okay, so we've got potential appliance issues, but you mentioned energy bills earlier too.
Yeah.
And look, I am always trying to save a few bucks, especially with how expensive energy is these days. How does voltage drop play into that?
Yeah, it's actually one of those hidden costs that a lot of people don't even realize. When the voltage drops, some devices, they try to compensate by drawing more current to maintain your performance.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and higher current means higher energy consumption, which means, you guessed it, a higher bill at the end of the month.
Need top quality electrical wire? Baboom Baboom's got you covered. Get your 6-pack today. Each combo comes in 6 different colors and a total of 600 feet of wire. Perfect for any project, and you won't find a better price in the industry. Head over to baboombaboom.com now to snag yours. That's baboombaboom.com.
So not only can voltage drop mess up my gadgets, but it's also going to drain my wallet. This is due two-front war.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But don't worry, we're not going to leave you stranded on the battlefield. The good news is there are actually some pretty simple, effective ways to, like, fight back against voltage drop.
All right, give me the battle plan. I'm ready. How do we keep my devices happy, my home safe, and my energy bills under control?
So remember that whole, that river analogy we were talking about?
Yeah.
The Baboom Baboom blog, they really emphasize using the right pipe for the job, which in this case means the right wire gauge.
Okay, so bigger is better when it comes to wire gauge. A thicker wire, less resistance, kind of like how a wider riverbed lets the water flow through more easily.
Exactly. That's a great way to think about it. Choosing a thicker wire, so one with a lower gauge number, that can significantly reduce the resistance and make sure that voltage stays consistent over longer distances. They actually even have like a handy table in the blog that helps you figure out what wire gauge you should be using based on your, specific needs, like how much power your devices are drawing and how long the wire run is.
That's super helpful. I'm going to be honest, I've definitely been guilty of just grabbing whatever wire I've got lying around in the past. But I'm starting to see how, like, a little bit of planning in the wire aisle could save a lot of headaches down the road. What else can we do besides wire gauge?
Well, speaking of length, that's another, big factor. The shorter the distance that electrical current has to travel, the less chance there is for that voltage to drop.
So I'm guessing those like 100-foot extension cords that everyone loves to use probably aren't the best idea then.
Yeah, they definitely have their limitations. If you're like constantly running power over long distances, it might be worth thinking about relocating your outlets, or like we were just talking about, using thicker gauge wire for those longer runs.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got wire gauge, we've got distance. What about overloading circuits? I know that's like a general rule of thumb, like you shouldn't do that. But how does that tie into voltage drop?
That's a great question. And you're right. Overloading circuits is, yeah, it's asking for trouble. It's like, trying to force a ton of water through this tiny little pipe. What you want to do is distribute that electrical load across multiple circuits, and that's going to help prevent overload, which then minimizes the strain on any single wire.
Right. So less strain means less resistance, which means less voltage drop. Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
You've got it. It's really, by understanding these pretty simple principles that you can really start making like informed decisions about your electrical setup and avoid all those frustrating and potentially dangerous consequences of voltage drop.
This has been a total eye-opener. But, all this talk about like wires and circuits and stuff makes me wonder, like, what about on a larger scale? Like you're talking about powering a house, but what about something like a whole city?
Now, that is a fascinating question. And you're right. We've been really focused on like the home front. But these principles of voltage drop, they actually apply on much larger scales too. Just imagine the challenge of like delivering consistent power to skyscrapers, factories, entire neighborhoods.
It's incredible when you think about it like that.
Yeah.
Just the scale of it makes you really appreciate the people who keep all the lights on, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And the stakes are way higher when you're talking about, a whole city. Reliability, efficiency, those are key. And voltage drop plays a big role in both.
So as we wrap up here, what are the main things you want listeners to take away from this deep dive on voltage drop?
I think the big one is like understanding voltage drop gives you like the power, so to speak, to make smart decisions about your own electrical setup, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're tackling a big DIY project, setting up, a killer home theater system, or even just putting up those holiday decorations, thinking about wire gauge, thinking about distance, and making sure you're not overloading your circuits. That can make a huge difference.
And hey, a little knowledge about this whole like electrical gremlin, it goes a long way in keeping your home safe, keeping your devices running smoothly, and yeah, keeping those energy bills in check.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Although, It's always a good idea to talk to a qualified electrician if you're doing any serious electrical work. But the next time that you see a light flickering or an appliance acting up, at least you'll have a better idea of what might be going on behind the scenes.
This has been eye-opening, that's for sure. It just goes to show sometimes, like, the smallest things can have the biggest impact. Until next time, everyone, stay curious and stay plugged into knowledge.
Need top-quality electrical wire? Baboom Baboom's got you covered. Get your 6-pack today. Each combo comes in 6 different colors and a total of 600 feet of wire. Perfect for any project, and you won't find a better price in the industry. Head over to baboombaboom.com now to snag yours. That's baboombaboom.com.